What if I told you that the lawnmower sitting in your neighbor's garage, the one in your shed, and the one that guy down the street just paid $800 for are all secretly the same machine? Not similar, not inspired by each other, the same machine, wearing a different costume, carrying a different price tag, and sold under a different name at a different store. You've been choosing between brands that were never actually competing with each other. One corporation, one single, quietly powerful company, owns 9 of the most recognized lawnmower brands on the market, and they all roll off the same platform, share the same bones, and bleed the same engineering DNA. Most people have no idea this is happening, and the ones who do, they use it to shop smarter, spend less, and never get played by a marketing label again. So, before you walk into another hardware store, before you drop another dollar on a machine you think is unique, stay with me, because what you're about to find out is going to completely change the way you look at every single mower on that showroom floor.
So let's start with that first question: who actually owns the name on the hood? And to answer it, you've got to look at a company most people never think about when they walk into Lowe's or Home Depot. Stanley Black & Decker. Yeah, the tool company. The drills, the toolboxes, the DeWalt yellow and black, sitting in garages all across America. A massive industrial manufacturer that has quietly built one of the most dominant portfolios in the outdoor power equipment industry. It started with Craftsman. In 2017, Stanley Black & Decker acquired the Craftsman brand from Sears in a deal worth roughly $900 million, bringing one of the most iconic American tool names under its control. But Craftsman was only the beginning. The bigger move came through MTD Modern Tool & Die, one of the largest mass-market mower manufacturers in North America. Through MTD, brands like Cub Cadet, Troy-Bilt, Yard Machines, Boland's, and several others all became part of the same corporate system. Stanley Black & Decker first took a minority stake in 2018, then completed the full acquisition in 2021, fully absorbing MTD into its outdoor equipment division, and then it expanded even further. Through additional acquisitions, Stanley Black & Decker also brought Excel Industries into the portfolio, the company behind Hustler and Big Dog commercial mowers, giving it a strong presence in both residential and professional-grade equipment. So now step back and look at what that actually means. Walk into Lowe's or Home Depot and you see Craftsman, Troy-Bilt, Cub Cadet, Hustler, and DeWalt outdoor equipment. Different names, different colors, different price points, but underneath, a large portion of them trace back to the same parent company and shared manufacturing ecosystem. Now here's where it gets important for buyers. Take Cub Cadet and Troy-Bilt. One is positioned slightly more premium, one more budget-friendly, but many models share underlying platforms, engine suppliers, and manufacturing architecture. The differences often come down to trim level, features, and pricing strategy rather than completely separate engineering systems. And that's where the perception gap starts. To the average buyer, it looks like a full aisle of competing brands. But behind the scenes, it's a small number of companies controlling a large portion of what actually gets built, branded, and sold. Even owner feedback across major review platforms shows a consistent pattern. Satisfaction varies more by model tier and usage level than by the brand name stamped on the hood. That still leaves the bigger question. Because while Stanley Black & Decker was consolidating the brands you see on the shelves, another group of companies already had control over something even more critical: what actually powers those machines. So you've got the badge figured out. Now flip to question number 2: who built the engine? And this is where you run into a name you've seen 1,000 times and probably never once stopped to think about. Briggs Stratton. Look down at almost any gas mower and odds are you'll spot it stamped right there on the engine block. Briggs Stratton has been bolting engines onto American lawn equipment since 1908 out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and today they're the single largest maker of gasoline engines for outdoor power equipment on the planet. That little badge has ridden on engine covers for so long it's basically turned into wallpaper. You quit seeing it. It just blends in like the logo on your kitchen faucet you've walked past 10,000 times and couldn't describe if you had to. Now, I'm going to be straight with you. Briggs is not the only engine in that aisle. Kohler, Kawasaki, and Honda power plenty of machines too, and those battery mowers stacking up near the front don't run a Briggs or any gas engine at all. So nobody's telling you every motor is a Briggs. But that one block? You'll find it bolted under a whole lot of competing names that have no clue they're related. Briggs & Stratton doesn't just sell engines to the mower brands. Briggs & Stratton owns mower brands. Through its Simplicity manufacturing arm out of Port Washington, Wisconsin, the company holds Simplicity, Snapper, and the commercial Ferris line plus Vanguard, Billy Goat, Almond, Murray, and more. So the same outfit supplying engines to half the aisle was, at the very same moment, quietly competing against those exact customers with brands of its own, selling the engine and selling the whole mower. Take Murray, a name you'll still spot at Home Depot. Back in 2004, Murray collapsed, owing Briggs somewhere around $40 million. Instead of eating the loss, Briggs went out and bought the Murray name, the rights, the designs, the entire identity. A brand that fell apart, kept breathing as a badge. But here's the part that should make you sit up straight. In July of 2020, Briggs and Stratton, that name that's been turning over in American garages since before most of us were born, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Federal bankruptcy court. And by that September, a private equity firm called KPS Capital Partners had scooped up the company's assets for about $550 million. The badge never changed. The cover still reads Briggs & Stratton. But the company behind it became a private equity project, and every decision on parts, on warranty, on which brands live and which ones die, now runs through that reality. And those brands felt it. Snapper's the clearest example. Founded in 1951, picked up by Briggs in 2004, with more than 70 years of American lawn care history behind it, Snapper itself claims it built the industry's first self-propelled rotary mower. Then, in October of 2024, Briggs licensed the Snapper name out to Day North America, a China-based equipment maker, to carry it back onto store shelves. And Murray was already running under that very same Chinese license. Two old American names, both wearing a borrowed badge. The riding tractors took the hardest hit. After the bankruptcy, Briggs pulled its Snapper and Simplicity tractors, and zero turns out of the North American market entirely. Back in 2023, leaving the commercial Ferris brand to carry whatever was left. All right, payoff time. I told you up top there were two names that break this whole thing wide open. Two machines you can walk right up to in that very same aisle that do not answer to Stanley Black and Decker, and do not answer to Briggs & Stratton. Here they are. John Deere and Toro. And here's the part the "it's all the same stuff" crowd never wants to admit. These aren't some tiny boutique brands tucked in a corner. These are two of the biggest names on the entire floor. Start with John Deere. That's Deere & Company, a publicly traded American outfit that's been running since 1837. 1837. That's older than the light bulb, older than the telephone. Headquartered in Moline, Illinois, pulling in north of $5 billion a year. Nobody bought them up. Nobody folded them into a tool conglomerate. So when you roll that green and yellow machine off the floor at Lowe's or Home Depot, the company on the badge is the company that actually built it and stands behind it. Then there's Toro. The Toro Company, another independent, publicly traded business, founded back in 1914 out of Bloomington, Minnesota, doing around $4.5 billion a year. Toro's been busy too. They own Lawn Boy, and they own the commercial Exmark line. But here's what matters for you: Toro answers to Toro, not to either of our two big owners. And you'll find those red machines parked right there at both Lowe's and Home Depot, sitting next to all the badges that secretly share a parent. Now, I'm not going to stand here and tell you independent automatically means better. That's a model-by-model conversation. And a Deere or a Toro can have an off year like anybody. What I am telling you is that with these two, the name on the hood and the company behind it actually line up. And even the engine question doesn't fold neatly into one owner. Deere runs its own John Deere branded motors on some machines, and Kawasaki built ones on others, so they're not handing that decision to a single supplier either. This, right here, is the almost in the title. Not every mower in that aisle traces back to two companies. John Deere and Toro are the living proof. And honestly, that's exactly why you can trust the rest of what I've shown you. Anybody who swears one company owns every single machine on that floor is selling you a story. The real picture is two owners and a couple of giant exceptions, and now you can spot all of it on your own. But if you want to see ownership at its absolute cleanest, a company that's never been flipped, never gone bankrupt, never licensed its name out to anybody, and won't even show up at your big box store on a Saturday morning, there are two more names you need to meet. And that's exactly where we're headed. So let's end where the noise finally quiets down. Because for all the badge swapping and the bankruptcy filings and the borrowed names, there are still companies out there whose ownership story is almost boringly simple. Nobody flipped them. Nobody bailed them out. And you will not find them sitting on a big box floor on a Saturday morning. Two of them are worth knowing. The first is Gravely. The Gravely name reaches all the way back to 1916, better than a century of American lawn equipment. And here's what matters. Since 1982, Gravely has been owned by Ariens, a family company out of Brillion, Wisconsin, run by the same family generation after generation. The ownership simply never changed hands the way Snappers or Briggs did. No private equity takeover, no Chapter 11. No name licensed off overseas. The people who own Gravely today are the same people who took it on more than 40 years ago, and that chain hasn't snapped once since. And Gravely doesn't chase you down a big box aisle. Either it sells through independent dealers on purpose. The second is Skag, and this one's a little different. Skag Power Equipment was founded in 1983 by a man named Dane Skag. From the very start, the machines were actually built under contract by a Wisconsin company called Metalcraft of Mayville. And in 1986, Metalcraft simply bought the whole brand outright. Now here's why that matters. Metalcraft isn't a mower company that learned to bend steel. It's a metal fabrication company, first one, that traces its roots clear back to 1920 and hit its 100-year mark in 2020. They run 6 facilities across Wisconsin, better than 1 million square feet of factory floor, and they cut and weld their own steel for those mowers in-house. So when you buy a Skag, you're buying from an outfit that literally makes the metal, not one that just bolts together parts that rolled in on a truck. Now let me keep it honest, the way I have this whole video. Even Skag and Gravely don't build their own engines, though still come from the big engine makers. Names like Kawasaki, Kohler, and Briggs Vanguard line. So that second decoder question never fully disappears. And buying dealer only comes with real trade-offs. You'll usually pay more, and you can't just grab one on impulse next to the paper towels. If you've got a small, flat yard you mow a handful of times a season, the honest answer is a big box machine might be all you ever need. These aren't everybody has to buy this picks. They're just clean examples of what unbroken, no games ownership actually looks like, so you can decide what you're really paying for.
And that brings us to the end of this video. What started as a simple lawnmower comparison turned into something much bigger. A look behind the curtain at how this industry really works once the marketing gets stripped away. If this video changed the way you look at mower brands, pricing, or dealership marketing, hit that like button because it helps more buyers see this information before they spend money they did not need to spend. Subscribe and turn on notifications because there are a lot more industry secrets, hidden platform relationships, and real-world equipment breakdowns coming next. And now I want to hear from you. Which mower brand shocked you the most once you realized who actually builds it? Drop it in the comments below. I read every single one. Until next time, buy smarter, research deeper, and never assume the badge on the hood tells the whole story.